Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
So if you don't have to travel, please don't.
Extreme weather warnings, more snow and powerful winds slam the south coast.
We were going to go downtown, but got tired of waiting, so we got off here.
Transit stalled, ferries canceled, highways and streets treacherous. Flights canceled or delayed at YVR.
You seem a little stuck here.
Yeah, I've been stuck for a few hours now.
All schools and universities closed. Unprecedented hurricane-force winds expected for Howe Sound. The BC government telling people to stay home.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
The extreme weather warnings up right now follow a massive dump of snow overnight. It caused another day of chaos on highways, roads, and side streets. Highway 1 shut down completely again in the valley. The plows and salt trucks simply couldn't keep up.
SkyTrain and buses struggling to move, flight cancellations and delays at Vancouver International Airport. A rare snow day for almost all schools, colleges, and universities. Good evening. With snow and wind warnings up, we have extensive coverage tonight.
CBC's Joel Ballard is live in the Fraser Valley, Dan Burrett live in Horseshoe Bay, and meteorologist Brett Soderholm is here tracking this storm.
But let's begin with Joel in Abbotsford, where it is particularly nasty tonight. Joel, I think all we have to do is look at you to know how cold and how strong the winds are right now.
Well, Anita, you're not wrong about that. The wind has been absolutely pounding. I'm regretting my choice in jacket. It started to snow again out here, and the wind is picking up the snow off the ground, swirling it around. It's smacking you in the face. The conditions have just been nonstop all day long, and that wind has made it increasingly treacherous and nightmarish for the people who live here in Abbotsford. Blizzard-like conditions. Drivers trapped in a wall of white, forcing an 8-hour closure of Highway 1 between Abbotsford and Chilliwack.
Drivers were getting stranded on the number 1 highway, and with the terrible and inclement weather, it was really hard to get to them.
Complete chaos. And when the snow finally let up, the wind refused, kicking up the white stuff already on the ground.
And it does cause a lot of strain on your eyes when you're trying to drive, especially when it's low light. And it can be very confusing as to where the road actually is and where it ends, where the lines are.
Warnings from police and the province to stay home if you can. Perhaps not a problem, as treacherous roads have made it impossible for people to leave the comfort of their homes. And those who have might be regretting it. Some plowing their driveways for the 3rd time this week.
Too much cleaning, man. No city helping.
Luckily, one man is racking up brownie points, hours spent clearing this hilly neighborhood.
Just helping the neighbors. I see everybody's struggling with the shovel and stuff, cleaning a driveway.
Gossel says the city can't keep up.
Last year we didn't have much, right? But this year is like bad.
And when it comes to business, well, let's just say the snow is bad for it. Many businesses in this strip mall staying closed today, except, well, the Sumas Mountain liquor store.
The numbers have stated that we're pretty much normal as everything else. Everybody needs their alcohol on a cold day like today.
Or in preparation for what's to come tomorrow. Now, police are saying if you do have to go out, just use common sense. Make sure you're leaving enough room between your vehicle and the vehicle in front of you. Make sure you're taking your time driving slowly. And please make sure your vehicle has snow tires. Mike, Anita?
All right, Joel, get home safely. Thank you.
And as you could see in Joel's report, wind warnings are in place tonight for much of our region.
CBC's Dan Burrett is live at Horseshoe Bay at the south end of Howe Sound, where hurricane-force winds are expected. Dan, what's happening right now doesn't look too crazy.
It's getting colder, it's getting windier. There are very few people around. This place is as barren as the ice planet of Hoth, and the ferries are not moving. And as you mentioned, we are expecting, and now Environment Canada has forecast, blizzard-like conditions for Howe Sound and up to Squamish. In Gibson's, it was a different story today, albeit still very windy. Lots of boats being rocked around, a lot of activity on the water. And again, we heard those messages of people being told to stay home. Now, earlier here today in Horseshoe Bay, we saw plenty of cancellations because ferries were shut down essentially as of 3 p.m. across the south coast. And as you alluded to, Environment Canada saying we're in for even more windy conditions. Here's Environment Canada.
The storm that's approaching the south coast tonight is going to be a lot more intense than what we saw last night in terms of wind. So we have wind warnings in effect for Greater Victoria, the east side of the island, Metro Vancouver, and the Fraser Valley. We're going to see gusts in excess of 80, 90 kilometers an hour. And with all the snow that's around on the trees, we can expect power outages and more ferry cancellations.
Wind like this, it usually means the ferries are hit pretty hard.
That's right, Anita, and it was, as I said, earlier today around 3 p.m. when BC Ferries tweeted out that South Coast sailings were going to be scrubbed. And you can see behind me, there's one of the ferries there. Very few workers around here. We saw a few earlier today or earlier this evening shoveling off, and a few stranded passengers trying to figure out what to do. The only light around here is really from the few coffee shops and the restaurants that appear to be doing a rather brisk business with takeout. Here's what BC Ferries has to say about this whole situation.
We know that it's been a frustrating last few days for our customers and our travelers, and we're aware of that, and we sincerely do apologize for the inconvenience, but ultimately safety is our top priority.
And when it comes to safety, earlier tonight we heard from the Transportation Ministry that said it may close bridges and highways in order to get people off the roads and keep them safe. So if you do not have to be out in this or anywhere, don't. Anita, Mike?
Good advice, Dan. Thank you.
And it has been commuting chaos right across Metro Vancouver since very early this morning.
Major delays on buses and SkyTrains well into this evening's commute. Eva Yugen-Senj has more on the challenge of just getting around.
When it came to traveling today, TransLink had 2 words of advice for commuters: stay put.
Our advice is to reconsider travel if that is possible. If people do have to travel, they should try and consider whether off-peak periods are an option.
Usually it takes like 1.5 hours. Today it's almost like 2 hours. It's still going on.
The next train wasn't due for more than half an hour, and it was quite slow. They were traveling slowly, and it was very crowded.
SkyTrains were delayed across the entire network. Tracks covered with snow and ice, and doors frozen shut, forcing attendants to come up with creative solutions to pry them open. It doesn't get much more Canadian than this unique tool, and the transit service wasn't afraid to ask passengers for help.
If you do see the train traveling with the door open, please try to get the door shut.
Oh, it took about 20 minutes delayed because of extreme severe weather. Other than that, we'll see. This is the next leg, and then after that, I'd imagine I'm walking.
There was ice on one of the rails at Bridgeport, so that we had to wait in a couple of stations for a few minutes.
The SkyTrain is okay, but a little bit late.
Elsewhere, buses struggled to make it up hills and across bridges.
On the way, I saw one of the 99s was stuck on Arbutus, so the people from that bus got off and got on our bus.
Because the sidewalks have snow all over it, the bus has to kind of be out on the street because there's no clear on the sidewalk for people to get off.
And the ones that kept moving, some of them were delayed as long as 90 minutes.
But obviously it's a challenging day for us, and so we do apologise to customers for the impacts that they will see on the system.
Despite the challenges, many were still determined to go about their business as normally as possible. But snow continues to accumulate, and so TransLink is warning of more delays and closures to come. They're asking travelers to check their Twitter account and Alerts website for the latest updates. Eva Yugen-Senj, CBC News, Vancouver.
And at Vancouver International Airport, the storm is causing plenty of delays and some flight cancellations.
So yeah, that is a bit of a domino effect from some of the conditions in the area. But overall, most flights are running pretty close to on time.
Regional flights and those to Seattle and Portland the most affected this morning. YVR reminding travelers to allow extra time getting to the airport, especially considering the road conditions. That means getting to YVR at least 3 hours in advance for international flights, a couple of hours early for domestic or U.S. flights, and of course, check with your airline for the latest information.
Okay, let's go now to Brett Soderholm, who is live to look at what's happening because things are going to get even worse, aren't they, Brett?
They certainly are, and I wish it was just a simple matter of being a little bit more snow on the way, nothing too serious. But as we heard earlier, the primary concern for tonight and tomorrow is going to be the very strong winds that are expected. I want to show you a live look at some of our conditions across the lower mainland right now. This is a look at our satellite and radar imagery, and you can tell either looking behind me or on this, we're not actually seeing snowfall right now in downtown Vancouver compared to Abbotsford, as we just saw a little bit earlier. But that doesn't mean that we're over it yet. There's going to be more coming throughout the overnight period, and this is because our temperatures right now are definitely on the chilly side. We are still looking at temperatures at about -3 across the whole region, and we will slowly but surely be warming up, but as we do so, it is going to be very treacherous. It's going to come at the cost really of these winds. You can see the wind warning here issued by Environment Canada, 70 to 90 kilometers an hour, and that's going to be the case as early as about 8 o'clock tonight. Our winds right now aren't too bad. We're still looking at anywhere, say, around 48 kilometers an hour toward Victoria Harbour, but these are going to be picking up over the next few hours. And it doesn't end there. A particular note, especially up towards Squamish, you're seeing in red there, that is an official blizzard warning. That is very rare. That means visibility is going to be reduced down to 400 meters for at least 4 hours throughout the overnight tonight. So travel absolutely not recommended, and that applies to anywhere here across the lower mainland.
All right, Brett, talk to you again in a little bit. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, the island has also been hit particularly hard. People spent the day digging out from the last storm before getting ready for this next one. Close to 30 centimeters of snow blanketed roads in Greater Victoria. The Ministry of Transportation is asking all drivers to avoid non-essential travel on Highway 1 from Nanaimo to Victoria. The Greater Victoria School District had all schools closed early today, and the same went for Camosun College and the University of Victoria. But some folks, of course, weren't too upset about that snow day.
I wish it would stay a little longer, but kids out of school gets problematic. So, you know, but it'd be nice if it sticks around a little bit. Kids can go sledding.
All of the snow broke a 49-year-old record. This is the most snow the city has seen since that almost 10 centimeters of snow fell in 1971. The next system blowing through is expected to bring high winds. Southeast of the island could see up to 90 kilometers an hour. So the weather woes are far from over.
And if you're looking for a shovel or perhaps something else to help clear away the snow and ice, well, you might just be too late.
Come and buy it now, because once they're gone, it's going to be hard to get them again. We're running out of ice melter at the wholesalers right now.
Shovel dealers and ice melt suppliers say they are selling out of both very fast. Staff at the store in East Vancouver say they've sold more than 460 bags of ice melters so far, and they can hardly keep shovels in stock.
BC Hydro is experiencing a huge surge in power consumption each day of this cold snap, breaking records set the day before. The company says last night's peak load was 275 megawatts more than the day before. That's as much as 2.3 million people turning on their TVs at the same time. There are several outages, including both North and South Vancouver Island, where about 4,000 customers are without power.
And it's so cold in Prince George, they are suspending all snow and ice removal operations for 24 hours. There are concerns the cold could damage the equipment. The city's been battling broken water mains as it struggles with record minus lows of minus 44 degrees. The frigid temperatures are making it difficult for crews to repair the lines and restore service. They warn some people may be without water until late Thursday, when the temperature is expected to rise a bit. Most residents are staying indoors as they wait for the thaw. And it's not all doom and gloom with the snowstorm. The heavy snowfall means plenty of powder for the kids to get out and sled and toboggan.
Any favorite memory for you with the snow?
I used to enjoy the odd toboggan on the North Shore Mountains.
Not anymore?
I remember a few bad wipeouts, you know, that kind of thing.
Everybody's got to have one of those. I used to take the ATV out on the farm in Abbotsford.
The ATV.
Good time.
Nice.
Here's a look at what kids around BC.
We've had about 2 people on the sled, you know, but I think we could try for 4. Yeah. It might be a funny turnout, but I think it would really work if we tried.
How do you like the snow day off school?
Last year there was like 3, and this year there's only 1, sadly, but it's very fun.
What if it happens again tomorrow? You gonna be back?
Maybe, yeah, probably, yeah.
You want to take your jacket off? Yeah. Oh, I got it. It's hard. It's too hard.
Are you too warm?
Yeah, I'm too. Well, I don't want to sweaty. I'm ready.
A little dangerous, taking some chances there.
Oh, they were okay. Just don't want to get too close to the street.
No.
Yeah.
All right, the rare snowstorm here in Metro Vancouver can, of course, bring out some pretty weird sights. Yesterday, we showed you someone shoveling snow with that folding chair.
Yeah, but someone may have that beat in the oddity department. Dollies are, of course, used to move large, heavy objects, which can apply to snow, perhaps. He's not using it in the way you'd normally use a dolly, but whatever gets the job done, right?
Right.
Oh.
Oh, look, it's Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you could have used a dolly. What happened here, Mike?
Well, it seems my trusty shovel, I was going to try to duct tape, and it snapped.
You just really didn't want to shovel, eh?
No, I was okay with that, but it just, it snapped. So. Thanks to some neighbors, we were able to finish clearing the driveway.
Very good, very good.
A lot of snow.
And it can also be quite the struggle staying warm in these temperatures, but this person has a creative solution. Granted, dancing with fire probably isn't an option for everyone. Definitely comes with a disclaimer, don't try this one at home.
Yes, probably good advice.
Ooh.
And our big hit of winter weather is also the first time many new Canadians here in BC have experienced snow.
That includes a Wavadila family in Victoria. They put on their snow boots and stepped outside to tell us about what that first sight was like.
Wow, I thought it was some funny noise knocking in our window, like making noise, ka, ka. I saw things falling down, like cotton, white cotton falling down. Then I was like, oh, what it is? We realized that it was a snow coming. We went to touch it with our hands. We thought it was like stones. No, that was our thinking then. It's very soft. First time in our life, first time seeing the snow, and we experience it. This is very amazing to us. We are like, wow, 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 wow. Canada is the best of the best.
All right, from having some fun and dealing with all the white stuff to news from the BC Greens. Former BC Green Party leader Andrew Weaver is leaving the party to sit as an independent MLA starting January 20th. However, the Greens say the move will not affect the balance of power in the legislature. Interim leader of the BC Green Party, Adam Olsen, delivered the news today and responded to why Weaver is leaving the party.
MLA Weaver has made it clear that he feels that this is the best way that he can attend to the various health matters affecting his family. The BC Green Party supports his decision. Conversation, and it's not been.
This comes after he stepped down as BC Green Party leader due to a reported health scare. MLA Olson went on to affirm the remainder of the party will continue to prop up the minority NDP government with the confidence and supply agreement. Weaver's decision reduces the Green Party caucus to 2, Olson representing Saanich North and Sonia Furstenau, MLA for Cowichan Valley.
Well, housing prices and assessed values may be down in the Lower Mainland, but that has not translated into more affordable rents. In fact, rents have actually gone up.
Our municipal affairs reporter, Justin McElroy, is here now. So, Justin, why the increase?
Yeah, Mike, it was not exactly the most normal day on the roads in Vancouver, but when it came to the rental market, same old, same old. The Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation put out its annual report today showing rental markets across the country, and it showed, once again, Vancouver with the lowest vacancy rate of anywhere in the country for any major city at 1.1%, and the average rent ticked up about 6% over inflation from about $1,650 to $1,750. Now, people may be wondering, after a year in which we saw home prices decrease by 10, 15, sometimes even 20% in some places, how come rents didn't do the same thing? And according to the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, it's pretty simple. The price of housing is still so high to buy that plenty of people are forced to stay in the rental market.
So rental demand is very strong in Metro Vancouver, and it's being supported by population growth, employment growth, and as well as the high cost of entry-level homeownership relative to local incomes. And so that demand was able to exceed supply, again, meant that landlords were able to increase rents when units turned over to new tenants.
Okay, Justin, not the greatest news for renters. So is there any optimism on the horizon?
Well, I talked to Vancouver Mayor Kennedy Stewart about this yesterday, and he says that he doesn't think it's a given that Vancouver has to be the worst in the country when it comes to the rental market, saying that the solution to his mind is building more rental pretty much everywhere. But of course, he's just one of 21 mayors in Metro Vancouver, and not all of them agree that building more supply is the solution. And so when asked what could be done more, he didn't talk so much about Vancouver as he did pointing the fingers at other cities in the region.
Do note, though, from the CMHC figures that right now Vancouver is providing 40% of the rental housing in the entire region. So we have about 25% of the population, but we're providing 40% of the rental housing. So I would hope that other municipalities would kind of pick it up a little bit and also make providing more rental housing a top priority in 2020.
But of course, Anita, even if they did that, it takes 3 to 5 years for an apartment building to come up. Still plenty of years until there's going to be any change in terms of how the rental market sifts out for most people in this region.
All right, Justin, thanks for the insight.
And tomorrow, the Supreme Court of Canada will begin hearing arguments in BC's case to stop Alberta from shipping oil through the Trans Mountain Pipeline without a permit. The NDP government filed the case in 2018 to stop the pipeline expansion project. The province argues it should be able to limit the contents of the pipeline because it would have to deal with the harm from any spill. The federal government is opposed to BC's position, fearing it would give the province a veto, countering Ottawa's authority over projects that cross provincial borders.
And just a reminder, you can watch this newscast live on CBC Gem. The free app is also where you can find other CBC programs.
And CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
Will Donald Trump be impeached? His trial is set to begin. After the break, we look at new evidence to support the case.
And thanks for watching online, where many of you are right now. We're always ad-free during the regular television commercial break.
Now, it may be freezing here, but efforts are heating up right across the country to tackle the issue of disposable cups.
Some independent cafes are finding their own solutions, but as Jacqueline Hansen reports, fast food chains, well, they're having a hard time changing their ways.
I pretty much always have it in my backpack. Yeah,
Brenna Green was stunned when McDonald's refused to fill her reusable mug.
They told me that it was a contamination issue, and I just thought that that was so ridiculous.
Green and her colleague went back to capture it on camera and posted the video online in hopes some bad publicity would force McDonald's to change its policy.
They're such a large corporation. How dare they make it so difficult to make such a small impact?
Plastic-lined disposable cups have generated concern because most Canadian recycling programs don't accept them.
It seems simple, but the cup is really challenging.
McDonald's and others have invested in a competition to find a greener cup. Almost a year ago, 12 winners were selected.
It needed to meet certain performance criteria. It has to hold hot and cold liquids. It has to meet certain environmental criteria in terms of sourcing, and it needs to be recoverable in recycling or composting systems.
Prototypes are being tested and may be ready for market later this year, but some environmentalists say reusable cups are still better for the environment.
Shifting to something that's compostable or made of another material is just shifting our disposable problem from one type of material to another. It's not actually solving it.
Many coffee shops, including Starbucks and Tim Hortons, already accept reusable mugs and offer customers a small discount if they use them. But Tim Hortons says few people do it.
It's low single digits. It's in line, to be quite frankly, with the industry. So it's not where we want it to be.
This year, the company plans to give out millions of reusable cups for free and introduce new ways to reward people for using them.
If anyone's going to be able to change guest behavior in terms of going with reusable cups and taking a more sustainable angle, it's going to be us.
As for McDonald's, it is now bowing to public pressure. Today, it tells us it is changing its policy. All of its restaurants across the country will allow reusable mugs by the end of February. A small win for the environmentally conscious, but only a win for the environment if customers take them up on the option. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Always a great thing for the environment. Of course, you do.
Yes.
I do understand. Sometimes you kind of wonder about hygiene and things like that, but hopefully that all gets sorted out.
Well, it's habit, right? Tough habits to break. Change is, but this is good. It's going.
Stay with us. We'll have more news in just a few moments. The impeachment trial of President Donald Trump is now ready to start.
It comes after Democrats in the House of Representatives took two big steps forward today. First, voting to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate and then naming their prosecutors.
As Katie Simpson reports, it comes as new evidence is in to support their case.
The Democrats have assembled their team of lawmakers, 7 members of Congress who will carry out the prosecution of President Donald Trump, which means the impeachment trial in the Senate will begin soon. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's team of impeachment managers includes Adam Schiff, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, who handled much of the impeachment hearing process, and Jerry Nadler, the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, who helped draft the articles of impeachment. Most of the 7 have real-world experience with the legal system, and for Pelosi, that was no mistake.
The emphasis is on litigators. The emphasis is on comfort level in the courtroom. The emphasis is making the strongest possible case to protect and defend our Constitution, to seek the truth for the American people.
The trial will begin on Tuesday, but the format isn't set in stone. The Democrats want to call additional witnesses and bring in new evidence, something the Republicans will not commit to and the White House opposes. That push is driven largely in part by the willingness of John Bolton to testify. As Donald Trump's former national security advisor, he has firsthand knowledge of what happened. And in the past 24 hours, new documents have been made public. Notes, emails, and text messages from an associate of Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal lawyer, that seem to connect Donald Trump even closer to the troubles with Ukraine. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
The Iranian president is warning that European soldiers in the Middle East could be in danger. It comes as Britain, France, and Germany ramp up pressure on Tehran to stop violating its landmark nuclear deal. Hassan Rouhani says today an American soldier is not safe, and tomorrow a European soldier might also not be safe. His remarks come after 3 EU nations triggered a dispute mechanism in the accord yesterday. When a U.S. airstrike killed its top general, Iran announced it would no longer abide by the limitation to enrich uranium, which also insisting it is not looking to make an atomic weapon. The EU move is intended to force Tehran into talks to preserve the accord under threat of bringing back UN and EU sanctions on Iran. Donald Trump withdrew the U.S. from the agreement in 2018 and reimposed crippling sanctions on Iran.
Last few nights, we've had people in the streets of Tehran demonstrating against the fact that they were lied to for a couple of days. People made mistakes, unforgivable mistakes, but it happened in the time of a crisis.
And Iran's foreign minister says Iranians were not told the truth after the downing of Flight 752. The regime initially said the plane crashed due to a mechanical error, but later admitted to accidentally shooting it down. Zarif says he and the Iranian president only learned about what really happened 2 days later, exactly a week ago. Flight 752 was struck by missiles shortly after taking off from Tehran's international airport. 176 people, including 56 Canadians, were killed that day.
The Government of Canada is sparing no effort to support the victims' families. Our focus at this time remains closure, accountability, transparency, and justice, including compensation for the families of the loved ones of the victims.
Transport Minister Marc Garneau says TSB investigators are on the ground and they're getting good cooperation, but formalizing Canada's role in the probe would allow us access to black boxes. Out of the 176 people killed last Wednesday, 138 were on their way to Canada. Canada will waive and reimburse visa and immigration-related fees for those affected by the tragedy.
Peter MacKay, a former Conservative cabinet minister, has officially joined the contest to replace Andrew Scheer as party leader. This announcement ends weeks of speculation about whether he would run. MacKay was the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party when it merged with the Canadian Alliance back in 2003. MacKay was appointed to several senior cabinet posts by his boss, then Conservative leader Stephen Harper.
Well, some stunning events in Russia to tell you about. The country's prime minister and his entire cabinet unexpectedly resigned today, a move meant to help President Vladimir Putin.
As Chris Brown reports, just a few hours earlier, Putin announced a new plan to change the power structure in Russia before his presidency ends in 2024.
One thing Vladimir Putin has promised and delivered for Russians on consistently over the last 20 years that he's been in power is political stability. No abrupt changes, not too many big surprises. Well, today, a fairly sizable departure from that. In a major speech, he talked about his proposals to change Russia's constitution, to devolve the powers of the president and to give them to other bodies, such as the parliament or the Duma. The idea going forward would be that the Parliament would have to appoint the Prime Minister. The Parliament would have to appoint cabinet ministers, and that's something right now that the President does. He is banned by law for running for a third term, and today he said he's not going to change that law. So someone else will presumably become the President, but a far weaker President than what he is. And he's also in the process creating a couple of options for himself to move into, potentially a much more powerful Prime Minister's role, perhaps something different with another body called the State Council. Either way, he seems to be, with these measures, with his proposals, trying to ensure that he remains at the center of Russian politics, indeed the most important, most powerful political figure in Russia long after his presidential term ends. Chris Brown, CBC News, Moscow.
And at 6:33, there's a live shot from Horseshoe Bay tonight, the south end of Howe Sound, where hurricane-force winds are expected. All ferry sailings on the coast canceled tonight, and our winter storm coverage will continue right after the break. A strong winter storm that's been pounding the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island has been around for a couple of days. It's going to continue, and it's brought most of the region to a standstill.
And those digging out will want to keep those shovels handy. Tanya Fletcher recaps a day that was painful for some, but a joy for others.
It's been 24 hours of paralyzing panic.
This is nuts.
The problem is you've got a layer of ice underneath the snow.
The snow came down all through the night. Drivers stranded in the dark. The Trans-Canada hit with whiteout conditions, shutting down parts of the highway entirely. Pedestrians making a futile attempt to fight back with umbrellas, even the buses apologizing. By dawn, the snowfall had transformed the city.
That's a steep one.
A delight for some.
It's fluffy and cold enough, but not too cold.
For students, a snow day. Classes canceled at all public schools in the Lower Mainland.
I love it so much.
These kids turning a closed side street into a sledding hill. Commuters were hit the hardest, the province sending out a travel warning urging people to stay home. Here, vehicle after vehicle struggled to make it through the intersection. This driver stuck for 3 hours and counting.
This looks like a pretty new car. These aren't snow tires, are they?
No, they're not. I have an appointment tomorrow, which is not helping me today.
And that's the problem. The region is not well equipped to deal with this degree of winter weather.
It really just hit everything, right? It hit all these main routes.
The city says on a level of 1 to 5, crews are operating on a level 4 snow response and will continue through the night.
Maybe we should have.
Public transit also ground to a halt, these passengers getting out to push the bus. And on the SkyTrain, perhaps the most Canadian solution of all. Staff using hockey sticks to knock the ice off frozen car doors. The cancellations are widespread. Several domestic flights into and out of YVR. BC Ferries scrapping all sailings on major routes. And it's not over yet. Another storm has rolled in, triggering a rare blizzard warning. More snow and strong winds will see the region pummeled again overnight. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
And amidst the chaos all that snow can cause, it's important to remember to take a break.
Yes, take this North Vancouver RCMP officer, for example.
Okay, Pope, say goodbye for you.
It's good knowing you guys. All right, here I come. No, they're down there to save him. He's gonna jump. Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. Textbook.
Yeah, he's moving pretty good. Instead of catching thieves and speeders, the officer taking a moment to catch some pretty decent air. It looks like he was having a blast there.
I'd be a little worried about going right into that water.
Still in his uniform and everything.
You're looking at a live shot of Georgia Street. Well, I hope you're not sick of the white stuff. Another big dump tonight into tomorrow. Brett has the full forecast coming up. right, if you're not sick of the weather just yet, well, we need to go to Brett now to give you another update on what's expected to hit the region coming up.
Yeah, as we heard earlier, really the dominant story tonight is going to be the winds. This is something that might catch a few people off guard because right now around me you can see it's actually looking quite calm. Not a lot of snow to be seen falling right now, but have a live look at what we're seeing across the city of Vancouver from our building. Once again, that would be looking up Georgia, I believe, and then looking all across the city. You can see it is looking very wintry at this point in time. And is it possible for it to get more wintry? Yes, it really is. We could be dealing with more snow accumulating over the next little while, but it's not just the snow, it's the cold. I want to start off by showing you just how much of Western Canada is being gripped right now by this Arctic air. Anything in purple there, that is an extreme cold warning with wind chill feeling closer to 50. That's the entirety of Saskatchewan and Alberta, and BC itself set some of its own records this morning. Places in the very northern portions of our province feeling down into the minus 40s without wind chill, and when you do factor in that wind chill, it was actually as low as minus 50. But all right, the precipitation story for the lower mainland, this one is going to be a tricky one, and not just forecast wise, but driving once again tomorrow is going to be tough, and here's why. Our temperatures are slowly going to be warming up throughout the overnight period into tomorrow, and that means first thing in the morning, you're seeing that there at about 8 o'clock. Along Highway 1, we could be once again dealing with some light snow first thing, but that also could be a rain-snow mix, so that's not going to be great for visibility. As the day goes on, that freezing line is going to be hovering right around us, shifting a bit north and a bit south, meaning that your evening commute as well, not looking great. And it's not going to be changing up really until we get toward the end of the week. And now in terms of a preliminary snowfall forecast here, it's worth mentioning still a lot of the heaviest snow is going to be falling across southern portions of Vancouver Island. We've already seen a foot of snow in Nanaimo, but across the lower mainland, this is still the potential for another 2 to 5 centimeters here. Now, when we look at the long range forecast, just to give you an idea, if you are sick of this snow, if you have not been enjoying these cold temperatures, well, there is going to be some rain coming, and that is going to be happening more so onto the weekend. This is going to be something that will bring back those temperatures closer to about 6 or 7 degrees, but it's going to be coming with some pretty hefty showers at that point. So take it or leave it, enjoy the winter while you can, or if you're ready for spring, well, I guess it's sort of around the corner, you could say.
All right, thanks, Brett.
You're welcome.
The weather update is brought to you by The Body Shop that always takes you back to your happy place. BC's favorite, Craftsman Collision, Air Miles, and Bigger Smiles.
Well, that firestorm over Meghan Markle in the UK could soon be getting even worse. We'll tell you why after the break. Well, if you thought the firestorm surrounding Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle has been pretty bad over the past couple of weeks, it could soon get even worse.
As Renee Filipponi reports today, the British media is saying that Meghan's estranged father is prepared to testify against his daughter in court in a case she instigated against a London tabloid.
The lead up to this big moment was mired in family drama for Meghan after a public fallout with her father played out in the British press. The growing rift culminated with Thomas Markle handing a personal letter from his daughter to the Mail on Sunday, which published it. During a trip to Africa in October, it was announced Meghan would be taking the paper to court, accusing the tabloid of a smear campaign against her. The paper has now filed its defense, saying there is a huge and legitimate public interest in the royal family and the activities, conduct, and standards of behavior of its members.
The press need the royal family need the press. And I think that is something that involves sometimes things are tough, sometimes they're very smooth.
Meghan's father will be a big part of the defense's evidence, including text messages between the pair.
They're also going to argue that Thomas Markle is entitled to have his say.
Dubbed Markle versus Markle, the two who haven't seen each other in years could end up face-to-face in court if the case goes to trial.
In these circumstances, the only loser is Meghan, and she'd be better to cut her losses right now.
This lawyer says the paper has no motivation to settle.
This is going to be a bloodbath if it goes to trial. Meghan is going to be subjected to forensic cross-examination. She's going to be sliced and diced by one of the best cross-examiners in London.
It will be up to the Sussexes to drop the case. If they don't, they could end up in the middle of an unprecedented media circus at a time when the couple are trying to carve out a new and more dialed-back lifestyle for their family in Canada. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
Meanwhile, back here in Canada, still many questions about the arrival of Harry and Meghan. The big one, where will they live?
Yeah, Victoria, Vancouver, Toronto seem to be the biggest bets so far, but as the CBC's Emily Brass found, Winnipeg might be a great royal option.
Rumor has it Harry and Meghan have their sights set on BC. But what if they move to Winnipeg? After all, the city is home to the Royal Canadian Mint, the Royal Canadian Air Force, the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, even Royal Canoe. The Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre says it would welcome the couple with open arms, maybe even offer acting work to Meghan.
There's some juicy roles for her. You know, perhaps she's in musical theater. Maybe she's a closet musical theater artist, and she would do really well in some of our shows next year.
The theater was given royal designation during the Queen's official visit in 2010. Across town is the bakery that catered to previous royal visits.
These are our mini imperial cookies and our large. So the large imperials were the ones done for the Queen, but they had a solid coating on them for her, and we had hand piped each one with her royal insignia, the E2R.
The dainties were also served to Prince Charles when he was in town. The shop is ready for any royal baking duties.
I think we strike a nice balance, you know what I mean? Like, we've served Grandma and Dad, but we're also a little bit eclectic, right? So maybe the artistic side would appeal to Meghan a little more.
The Duke and Duchess say they plan to be financially independent, but they'll still need a house that's fit for a prince. This new listing from Royal LePage could suit their budget.
The century-old mansion in Crescentwood has 6 bedrooms, 5 baths, a grand staircase, and an elegant dining room. At $1.2 million, it's a lot more house than they could get for that price in BC. And if they want more room, the historic Fort Garry Hotel is also up for sale. It could be the right blend of old style and new world, just like them. Emily Brass, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Don't make any Winnipeg cracks.
I'll keep them to my, yeah, no, that was.
1.2 million for that house there. That's,
yeah, move to Winnipeg.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe they'll end
Beautiful
up there.
British Columbia, nah. All right, a live shot right now of Horseshoe Bay. Winds are picking up. Look at that boat rocking. Hurricane force gusts expected in the Howe Sound. Coming up, we go back to Dan Burritt to see how he's holding up.
In 2018, an arrest was made that put Canada into the middle of a trade war between the United States and China. I'm Stephen Quinn, the host of the CBC Vancouver original podcast Sanctioned, the Arrest of a Telecom Giant. The extradition hearing of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou begins on January 20th. Stay on top of the story with new episodes of Sanctioned out now. Make sure you're subscribed to Sanctioned on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Returning now to our top story, yet another winter storm expected to pound the south coast tonight, sending wind speeds into the hurricane range and impacting travel across the region.
Our Dan Burnt live in Horseshoe Bay once again. Dan is expected to get downright nasty there tonight in particular.
Well, the wind gusts have been coming up for the past hour or so, Mike and Anita. And this is where it gets very dangerous because Environment Canada is warning of blizzard conditions, a blizzard warning with hurricane force winds up to 110 kilometers an hour for Howe Sound. So you do not want to be outside. You do not want to be out in a boat. And that is why, since 3 p.m., BC Ferries, and you can see it behind me, they have canceled all of their sailings. They say it's just not safe enough for them to be able to go out on the water. And the wind has been coming in fits and bursts here. It hasn't been exactly steady, and we're waiting for it to pick up around 8 o'clock tonight. We saw a few people up at the ferry terminal looking rather forlornly at all those canceled sailing signs. Buses are still running. We just saw the Horseshoe Bay to Vancouver blue bus that was running, and a few people are waiting outside, but there are very few people in this small, rather cold village. And another warning, highways and bridges may be closed by the Ministry of Transportation tonight. So if you do not have to be out there, don't. Back to you.
All right, Dan, well, your turn to get home safely. Thanks.
Yes, we are dealing with some pretty serious stuff here, but you know, when it comes to snow, it's not all bad, right?
I'm so happy to hear you say that.
I mean, we love it. We know how you roll.
To the choir over here, yeah.
Yes, especially for tobogganers today in Vancouver's Southlands neighborhood. Take a look. They were treated to a makeshift sleigh ride that was no less magical than the real thing. Horses and their riders towing anyone who wanted a lift. Not a bad substitute if you couldn't make it to a toboggan hill today. I wouldn't mind that. Looks like fun.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
People
awesome.
elsewhere in the province are going, yeah, we do that all the time here. Yeah. We don't get to do that.
So true.
All right, that's it for our program tonight. Dan will be back here in studio, a little warmer, with your next local news at 11 o'clock.
We're going to leave you with some pictures from around Metro Vancouver today as this big storm hit, and another one is heading our way. Have a great night.
Stay safe.